Good morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy. I hope you're doing well today on this beautiful Sunday morning. I had to think about it a minute. So, people have heard the story of Noah's Ark in the Bible and the flood and the reset, but a lot of people may not realize that this story is just not about a man building a boat. It's about codes, it's about bloodlines, it's about stargates. It's about all kind of things, statues, the survival of the earth grid. But today I want to talk about how all these threads connect from the primordial beings who lived here before the flood, because there were beings here before the flood, okay, to Enki and his creation or his dolls, to the statues that once spoke, to why ships vanish at the Bermuda Triangle, and finally what does all this mean for us? So before the reset, the primordial mother's origins were this. So the way that the earth was before the flood is that it was different. It was soft. It was plasmic. It was moldable. And see, this is why they were able to build these structures that fit together the way that they do, because everything was soft. And Roger Spurs has hypothesized this on his channel, Mud Fossil University, because this is the way that it was. The planet was more malleable. And so they were able to put things in molds and create shapes. But the way that they built these megalithic structures is like, the way that was relayed to me is like keys on a piano. Keys on a piano. Okay, so it was soft and the beings were plasmic, okay? They weren't full, hardened form like we are now, okay? And so we weren't locked into like a fixed appearance like we are now. Like what we're born with is what we've got, unless you can change it artificially, right? Because this is what this whole timeline has been about. Everything being the opposite, an inversion, or just an artificial illusion over the real template, the real recipe, the real design. Okay, so beings didn't have like one locked physical form. So they carried a lot of the cosmic traits from where they originally came from. And so we had a lot of different beings. Like we had these avian beings. They look like owls, eagles, falcons, and they were tethered to the polar gates. This is the northerly gate, the North Pole. These were the guardians of sight and navigation. You had these serpent and these dragon streams, and they were tied to the Nile and the Asian gates, and they were the keepers of the DNA and the water wisdom, folks, okay? We had the feline Lyrians. These Lyrians were sovereign protectors linked to the Atlantic Gate. You know, this is why so many people here right now are Lyran, because you are here because you're supposed to be activating and holding these sacred nodes, you know, protecting these places that are connected to your origins, which is the Atlantic Gate. My tribes, the wolf and canine tribes, were guardians at the South Pole. But I also come from these avian beings too. The whales and the dolphins from Sirius. This was the singing memory codes into the Pacific Gate. We had the insectoids, or what like a lot of people say they look like praying mantises. There's some that look like ants. These were pollinators, healers, and resurrection cycle controllers. And then we had bears and the Irma lion bears. They were like lion bears, kind of like Yogi Bear on steroids. Fierce protectors tethered to mountain gates. And then there were the giants. And they're known by the Nephilim or the Titans or the Fomorians. They grew tall in the lighter density of Earth's earlier lineages. And so alongside of them lived elementals, the beings of air, fire, water, and stone. Okay, this is why Everything on the planet is a corpse, woven directly from mother's womb. Okay, this is the original Earth family. This is the original Earth family. They were sovereign, they were multidimensional, and they were gate capable, each tethered to their gate by their trait codes, okay? This is what they talk about, 12 tribes. Over millions of years, visitors came here from the stars. They were Lyrans, they were Sirens, they were Arcturians, they were Andromedans, they were Mantids. Many shared codes in harmony. But then came the Draco Reptilians, chasing the mother spark that they had already lost in their own system because they chose to not embrace any divine feminine. So they lost their connection. So then they had to chase the light beings. And this is how you get all these myths about the seven sisters being chased through the galaxy by the hunter. This is what it's about. They were after their codes. And then the Anunnaki arrived. We got Enki, Enlil, and their assorted groups. They had all kind of houses, right? They began tinkering with the beings that were already here, okay? So the tablets say that Enki shaped man from clay. And we've already talked about this over and over. Clay is DNA. It's DNA, okay? Earth material. But the dolls wouldn't move, right? Because they didn't have the divine spark. They didn't have the feminine code. They didn't have it. They were unanimated. So what does Enki do? He calls in Nershag, the mother goddess, the nurse, the midwife. She added her essence, which was her blood, her womb water, her breath. Only did the bodies animate. They had to have the divine spark, okay? But these weren't sovereign beings. They were the first M1s, the first Amy's, okay? Doll bodies, programmable vessels that could labor and reproduce, but they lacked the full spark of the primordial mother. Adam and Eve in the Bible are the same story. Adam is the template. Eve, the copy from his rib, and Lilith, the erased biblical figure, was the older organic consort who refused to be turned into a doll. Before these interventions, the mother could move through stone. Statues weren't just art, folks. You know, all of those huge statues that they talk about that were at these world fairs, that were at the Pillars of Hercules, that were made out of this beautiful white marble. Okay, those weren't just statues, okay? This is why they look so lifelike. The Pillar of Hercules at Gibraltar marked the Western Atlantic Gate. The World's Fair statues were echoes of that memory, massive figures anchoring frequencies on temporary grids. The Statue of Liberty still sits on a gate node, a beacon at the mouth of the harbor. This is why priesthood smashed statues. This is, Theo just thumped me. This is why they said, oh, you don't worship statues. Don't have statues in the church. This was the whole point of having the statue in the church. Okay, the statue was an intercom system. The Divine Mother could animate that statue and use it for an intercom. They were all over the world. Okay, they didn't want these here. Not because they were idols, but because they could still channel Mother, primordial Mother. And this is why modern programs like Project Mannequin keep building mannequins, clones, and dolls. It's the same ancient attempt to animate vessels without the mother spark. And you know, how they were able to get this Project Mannequin is from time traveling back to these timelines and seeing what was happening. Stealing technology. This is what they have all of us kids doing in these programs. If you have the codes to go through, they time travel you back, and this is why we all have memories of Jesus. Making eye contact with Jesus. It's because he knew what we were doing. He could see through. They were in a thinner veil. They were in a different time. Jesus had the codes, you know. It's the same story repeating. You can't animate these dolls, these mannequins, and all these things without the divine spark. So what they're making now is essentially cages. Cages. So every gate on Earth is a frequency lock. The polar gate opened during resets, passed by avian and guardian codes. Okay, so if you have avian and guardian codes, you can go through the polar gates during resets. The Bermuda Gate, the Atlantic, feline and serpent codes. Today, ships vanish not because they're lost in the Bermuda Triangle, folks. You get it? I think you guys are warming up to this idea. They pass through dimensions because their resonance matches from their DNA. The Pacific Gate, whales, dolphins, and mantids, they're keeper of sound and memory. The Delmun, or the Persian Gulf Gate, which is very, very, very important to the story that we're about to get in. This is Noah's passage point, tied to bovine fertility codes and heirloom seeds. This is why this is called the womb of creation, because this is Mother's womb on the planet. This is where her body parts are. Her womb is there, the Fertile Crescent. The Mediterranean Gate, bee priestesses and giants. And I've been at this place too in other timelines. The Mediterranean. This is where I have my connection with George Michael. These are where my solar code's from. Okay, African Gate, serpent and lion codes of the Nile and the Sphinx. And I also have timelines in African. And I have early serpent coding. And this is one of the reasons why I have spinal bifida occulta. I was born with a hole in my spine where my spinal cord doesn't go through it, but it's one of my initiation marks. And lion codes of the Nile and the Sphinx. These are also Archangel Michael codes. These are the solar father, the Melchizedeks. These are the people that are here right now in African lineages. If you have African American, most likely you're carrying primordial codes from the mother. And depending on where your bloodline's been, you're carrying solar father codes. You're carrying Jesus Christ Michael codes. And, you know, this is why a lot of people that are African American in this lifetime have these genetics, because you got to be able to have the fortitude to be able to power through what's going on the planet. And you really take a hit. You know, you really take a hit because you got a lot of these special codes. Naga serpents, Garuda birds, and bear guardians are from the Himalayas, and they use the Asian gates. So Noah's Ark wasn't a wooden ship. It was a living cord of codes that were tethered to a gate. So you can imagine how people get lost in, they say get lost in the Bermuda Triangle, but they're really just passing through because it's a portal. It's the same thing with missing 411. He reports often that a lot of these people had some kind of defect, like they were slightly autistic, or they were this, that, or the other. There's some kind of something that is like a tag that's on these beings that go missing in the Missing 411 episodes. It's because they had the right coding and they just walk through portals. They walk through them. There could essentially be with 10 people. Not all 10 people are going to go through. It's just that one that has the right template, the right coding. Okay, so as hybrids spread and distortions multiplied, the grid tipped out of balance. And you know, you have to compare our grid to like an hourglass, top and bottom. Okay, if it's out of balance, it flips. Okay, it's a reset. That's why I say they flush the toilet. Okay, when these distortions multiply on the planet, it tips the grid out of balance. And see, it's not a mistake. That's what they're trying to do right now. They want us to have a reset because they want to get rid of all of us. You know, they want to use our DNA to create these artificial timelines. So now we have multiple artificial timelines that are being installed right now in the Matrix to catch all the people that are waking up and waking up to memories, but they don't have their discernment built. Okay. And this is where we have to come together, folks. Everybody's got to stop all this infighting nonsense. This is all nonsense. It doesn't matter who knows what and who says what. You have to use your discernment. People are going to have downloads in all different ways because some people are still working through distortions. Plain and simple. And so when people sit up on their high horse and pretend like they are the keepers of knowledge, that's bull crap. Everyone has access to this knowledge. You have to tune in your body to be able to receive it. Okay? That's all it is. I was raised with a grandmother who was tuned into the grid. I was mentored from a very early age. This is the only reason I know the things that I do, and I've experienced the things that I do. It was this, that I was born with these codes, and I was not brainwashed as a child. I was able to use my gifts and tap into my gifts. I didn't realize that I was also being entangled in other timelines because of my genetics. And so this is how you get caught up in these programs. They take you as a child. All right. So yes, the reset was lawful and manipulated. Some people want to preserve the mother's order. Others want to erase it. So using the purge to eliminate lineages they can't control and seize the grid for themselves is what these shadow groups are doing. So let's talk about Noah. Noah was perfect in his generations, is what it says. He was carrying intact primordial mother codes, guys. The animals, the seeds, they came into him. It says that in the Bible, because I was reading it this morning. I was reading Noah. In Genesis, it says, the animals and seeds came into him. And I thought, well, that's interesting. How is it that they came into him? That almost sounds like a magnet, right? Sounds like two magnets. And then I was thinking, okay, well, you know how you say every day, when you come and find me, I'll be here, because we're living in the past, present, and the future all at the same time. It's because they were magnetizing. Magnetized by his field. He carried heirloom seeds, pure animals, and the mother spark into the next stage. That's what Noah did. He wasn't building a boat. He was the boat, folks. A living vessel aligned to the Dilmun gate, able to pass through the flood. Okay? This is exactly what it is. Now, the same pattern repeats. We've got AIM. AIM. This is the acronym that goes into AIM. AIM, which is the artificial matrix. That's what it's called. And the people that are being cloned and fabricated, they're called AIMs. And the hints are everywhere. Okay, the false solar father, the cults, the celebrity archetypes, Project Mannequin, all this stuff, all Echoes, Inky's dolls. I mean, just like the Lubaboo dolls. The grid is tipping again, but this time we have a choice, because we're getting woke up this time. We don't have to wait for saviors or gods. There's no such thing that's coming. We can stabilize the grid ourselves. This is why I keep talking about the Earth Exchange program. Exchanging soil, planting heirloom seeds, carrying codes across the land. It's not gardening. It's anchoring memory into the grid. The way the primordial mother had it from the very get-go. Intended by God. Intended by Source. Not lowercase gods that are playing God. There's only one law of one. There is one universal law. We have to follow it. And we can restore the original grid. We can bring up the frequency of the planet and gain our sovereignty. We can stand up for ourselves in the meantime and not be targets. Okay, just like Noah carried seeds and animals, we can carry them now. We can do this by planting heirloom seeds, by honoring animals and traits after their kind. Okay, exchanging earth soul to awaken memory. Living in service to others, folks, 51% and above. If we do this, we become living arcs. We become the vessels who stabilize the grid, so another catastrophe or a flush isn't necessary. Come on. We're not dolls. We're not mannequins. We're not waiting for saviors either. We are sovereign, angelic, creator beings descended from the primordial mother. Good and bad exist in every group, but the law never changes. Those who anchor the codes keep the earth alive. Let's keep the earth alive. Let's put our blood on our intent. Our primordial mother's blood on our intent. Write down on a piece of paper that you, from now on, from this day forward, you pledge to be a steward to the planet Earth, to bring heaven to earth and free all humanity from bondage. Sign your name, sign it with love, and prick your finger and add your blood to it and make it a covenant. one that is for the benefit of all of us here. We have to do this. This is our role, to stabilize the grid, to exchange the earth, and to walk through the next cycle as living arcs, folks. So it's been 20 minutes. When you come and find me, I'll be here. We're living in the past, present, and the future, all at the same time, folks. We got to wake up. It's time for us. You know, the opposition is coming in really hard. That means that what we're doing the right thing, and we're doing good stuff. Otherwise, it wouldn't just be like a last-ditch effort here, folks, to get everybody trapped up in traps, you know, caught up in things. We have to use our discernment. This is why it's so important to have spiritual hygiene. So important to be coming outside and putting your feet on the planet and working with the earth. It is gonna activate your body. So I hope that you share and like the video. We've got to share this information. The channel is growing. If you need to reach out to me, if you are going through this awakening and you have things that, you know, you have questions about and you need guidance, I'm here. I'm here. You can email me. I don't charge people things for information because the information comes from the primordial mother and we're all capable of accessing it. We just have to tune our bodies in to do it. But in the meantime, you have to learn what's going on around you. If you have things that are happening around you and you're waking up, you're waking up to the programming. You're stepping outside of your programming and it causes all kind of chaos in your life. You can contact me, hstacy90@gmail.com. I don't charge people to talk to them. You don't have to book appointments. You don't have to do any of this nonsense. I'm here. I'm working for the primordial mother. I do this with heart-centered intentions. So with that, I hope to catch you on the next one. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching Sacred Enzyme. Bye-bye.